it's a very storied organization you have here, but you're also doing some new things and continuing to grow. One of those things I'd like to touch on is the Union Village, which is a relatively new program. And if you would introduce that.
Absolutely. So we're very proud of it. So Union Village started, I think Union Village started back in 2015, 2016. I came in 2017. And so we had some additional capacity of some buildings at the back of our campus with a separate entrance. And so we're right across the street from the Alabama School of the Blind, which is a part of the Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind, AIDB. So they're our neighbors, our friends, and now our partners. And so there's a huge need here in Talladega and in other places for safe, affordable housing for the blind, deaf, and multi-disabled individuals, adults. So AIDB, of course, has a residential program for their students, whether they're in high school or whether they're an adult. But they're not able to provide housing for graduates or for people that are here in Talladega that are blind and deaf. And so what you have is subpar housing, and particularly the blind, because they're not able to see. So they may be in a garage or a cellar or one of those buildings that you see outside of Lowe's and Home Depot. I mean,
like a shed type of
a shed, basically.
Yeah.
So and so what we were able to do is to try to address that by working together.
Yeah.
So we had the property, we had the capacity. So we formed what's called Union Village. So we had 4 cottages, 2 large, 2 small. And then they came in with full wraparound program supports. So they're able to provide transportation, case management, assisted technology. So they're right there. I mean, we have their employees working on our campus every day.
Well, they know best how to do those services.
And those are done through the regional center. And so they were providing those services wherever they lived. But you can imagine, get them in a safe, clean, secure environment that's affordable to them, cheaper than what they were paying for an unclean place. And then everybody, you have this group, so now they're able to provide even better services, easier because they're right here. So we started off that way. So then Union Village it got the name because there was a church, Union Presbyterian Church in Ozark, Alabama, down in the south, near Dothan. And it closed, and they sold the property, and the money came to the Presbyterian Home for Children.
Yeah.
And it came about the time that the board was seeing this opportunity that maybe we could do something with AIDB together that we couldn't do on our own. And so that's the union. And then we wanted to create community, village, and also the union between us and AIDB. So it's really a perfect name.
Yeah.
So the president's home is right next to it. And so I was living there, and ultimately at the end of the day, from a stewardship perspective, I didn't need that big house. So we put that also in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's 6, 7 people right now that are living in the historic the manse.
Yeah.
And then, have their own bedroom and
now, did they have to come in and do some little construction
no.
and changing around of the environment on the inside?
We did have to do that in the other buildings. The manse is primarily for the deaf. And so we had to make, for the doorbell, we've got, a
light that'll go off or something like that.
But we definitely had to work closely with AIDB to make those cottages with the accommodations and access and so forth.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning. So then what we decided to do, and this is all a beautiful area, can't wait to show you, beautiful oak trees, pecan trees. You can see our historic red barn, a beautiful area. We are building a tiny home community.
Also here on campus.
Right next to that.
Okay.
And so you can imagine what we have is a community, Union Village, that is composed of these 5 bigger buildings and then tiny homes. Right now we have 4. Okay. We're about to build 5 and 6. So phase 2 is a total of 16. So by sometime this spring, we will have 6 with 10 to go. And then the second phase, or the third phase, is actually another 24. So a total of 42 tiny homes.
Yeah.
And to live in a tiny home, and it's 475 square feet, you first move into the larger. And but these tiny homes are very nice. They're site built. They have 0 step as far as entry.
They're really designed for the individuals that are going to be living
designed.
there.
And we worked with architect Amanda Loper with David Baker. She's in Birmingham. They have an office also in San Francisco, but they focus on these
accessibility
kind of
spaces.
So, we had her expertise and creativity. And then again, we were working very closely with AIDB, which that's their world. And so these tiny homes they're amazing, and they're centered around green space. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do is create community.
Yeah.
And also where, in addition to AIDB providing these supports, we're also there as well. We just built a float for the Talladega Christmas Parade, so they could participate. We've done a Hawaiian luau. So, we're more than a landowner, mm-hmm. or a lesser.
More involved in supporting of the community there.
Absolutely.
I mean, you guys work hand in hand. The campuses are right next to each other.
Absolutely. But I can't overemphasize how incredible a partner the AIDB is. They have a full-time residential manager, a part-time nurse. We work together on maintenance, and so this the first tiny home was actually the money was raised from the Tarrant Manor Apartments. It's a Presbyterian housing for the elderly, and so they were able to sell that to a private party and pull the equity out and donate it.
Yeah.
Because they were a 501c3. Mm-hmm. So that provided the infrastructure in one of the homes. And then we had the other home is Union Presbyterian after the church that started it. But then after that, we began to partner with additional nonprofits. So Daniel Foundation of Alabama, Independent Presbyterian Church Foundation. So that gave us the 4. And then Regions Foundation, recently we had a groundbreaking. So that is house number 5. And then the city of Talladega has given us money. And so that will be house number 6. So the excitement is continuing.
The ball is rolling.
It is rolling.
Yeah. And as you're describing that, it makes me think of my college and the dorms there, and having that community of friends in the quad. But still having my own space, and whatever that looks like.
Exactly. I mean, we had a little supper party one night, and I looked out and I saw one of our residents who was deaf, but she had a young man who was blind, and he had his hand on her shoulder, and she was simply guiding him through the village to his cottage, and like, hey, see you tomorrow. So they're helping each other too. But there's, Alex, there's nothing like this in the country.
Yeah.
And we're continuing to get even more national attention, which hopefully that means more grants, which hopefully we can take care of more people.